Okay. Our executive session was on legal issues, so I have a motion to reconvene the meeting.
I'll make a motion to reconvene the meeting.
I'll second it.
John?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, now back to the minutes. Is there any additions or subtraction, correction?
I don't have anything.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
Roll call, John?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Financial report, Jackie, treasurer's report.
Okay, township accounts, general fund, ending balance October 31st, $678,961.62. Special fund ending balance $87,146.57. State aid checking ending balance $328,385.47. Recreation checking fund $13,345.16. Fire tax checking ending balance October 31st, $154,159.15. ARPA checking account. We did not receive the statement, but there's no activity on the account. And the account stands at $123,632.49. The sewer, the township sewer general fund. Ending balance October 31st, $100,675.15.
Jackie, is there any reason we can't take all that, the majority of that money and get it back over into the stores and you keep so much for, there'll be money coming in, right?
Yes, I'd like to report that all of the outstanding checks have come back to the account. They are accounted for. The only activity on this account are deposits. So my suggestion, the actual amount in the account is $143,590. My suggestion would be to remove all of that but $1,000. Because Mike is still continuing to deposit sewer payments into this account, so the money will continue to grow.
I personally like to see most of it back into the authority right now, at this point.
Yeah.
We don't have anything, we'll
There's no outstanding checks. You're gonna need to keep the balance in there.
Yeah.
Right?
just keep it open enough to make the deposits, and that's it.
I actually have that under bills to be paid.
Okay.
Issue.
Okay, do I have, accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
We'll second it.
Roll call, John?
Aye.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Bills to be paid.
Okay. Bills to be paid out of the general fund. We received a late bill from Elwood's Auto. The police cruiser was inspected. Unfortunately, all of the booklets had been prepared at the time, but I would like to add, if it's okay with you, to add a $30 expense for Elwood for the inspection of the police cruiser, which would bring the total bills to be paid out of the general fund to be $24,298.21. Out of the fire tax account, $98.75. And the sewer general fund to transfer to the municipal authority general fund, $143,590.
Do I have a motion to accept the bills to be paid? And I guess we can include in it transfer that money.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, John?
Aye.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Correspondence.
We received a letter from Stanley Paluzzi. After some careful thought, I have decided to tender my resignation from the board of directors of the Suburban Water Authority. I have enjoyed my involvement in developing and maintaining our water system. Sincerely, Stanley Paluzzi.
motion to accept the resignation.
I'll make a motion to accept Sam's resignation.
Have the advertising for that position,
Okay,
or I'll second that.
Roll call, John.
yeah.
Todd. Myself, aye. Okay, public comments on the agenda items. Do we have any?
I do, please. Concerning your executive session, the Sunshine Act requires you to divulge what that is about. It doesn't mean that it's for personal or identifying information, but you can't just say, for example, legal or personnel. It has to be something along the lines of something descriptive, yet not divulging personal information. So my question is, what was the executive session for?
Appeal lawsuit.
Of a lawsuit?
Well, I guess that's how we would, of an arbitration, how we would state it, huh?
Yeah, that's, I think that's what we're doing, discussing that. I was not
Appeal and
involved in saying
arbitration.
that, but it was an arbitration award, we feel that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to department reports. Kyle, recreation.
There's nothing really that other than passing the season at this point, buttoned everything up down there and all the boat launch stuff's put away. So be quiet until February or so until we start getting some things rounded up.
I have a question on that. Once we walk the dogs, there's no more bags.
Okay.
The containers, does that mean you're not doing it for the on?
We gotta get one.
Yeah, we'll get more orders.
Okay, thank you.
Under the recreation area. Am I under the right understanding, this will be for Jack and Tom, starting with the new sunshine laws, the recreation committee will have to have their agendas or anything posted on it?
I think that's probably accurate. Any committees would have to post agendas.
And set their schedule at the beginning of the year, just like everything else.
I think that's accurate.
Okay. So, a heads up, cut them.
Yeah, I mean, when we can conduct meetings, we have enough people to conduct them, which is
When that,
far
that's
as
just,
this
I
week.
was just saying, that same note, Tom, for like the planning commission. Okay.
I think that's
But
gonna be the
just
same
say
for
back
any sort of
if
committees
anybody-
operations.
Calls them, we have to know a day ahead of time so we can, for the planning commission. So we have time to post it. I mean, up till now, we've been doing it right up to the 4 o'clock that day, even, you know, that we just have to make sure they're here the day before, we'll post it.
I guess before going any further, for people who aren't usually here, Tom is our new solicitor. Bobby retired, so Tom Rosemelia is our new township solicitor. Road report. We're gonna give her to you, Dan, you're here.
We did the walkthrough today with a clean run. They were happy with everything, so we're gonna go over the paperwork on financial part of tomorrow. And then hopefully by Thursday, they're gonna bring it up at their meeting to do the reimbursement, but he said he doesn't see any issue with it, so. And Hillside Drive, we got the pipe, it's sitting out at the stockpile. Now it's just a matter of getting everything together, so we got there to get it done. We started putting the salt spreaders on. We got the international one tomorrow, and we're gonna put the one on the T-tag. Start putting that in. Yep.
Okay. On old business, Keystone Central School District easement update. I haven't got anything, Bobby, do you need anything?
Anything on that issue at all?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on it, so that's it, not doing.
No, that'll be with like Dave, Lindsay.
Yeah, I think that they were,
So I don't know if you can get a hold of Dave, see what he has, see where it stands.
I think it was going through.
I think everything,
Everything's like,
yeah, I think it just needs some final touches on it.
Is
Okay,
that
here.
property, out there?
over here,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Does that have to do with your easement thing?
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming it's right out here, that's what it is.
Okay, mower purchase. I know we've got prices on a mower. The old ones give us problems that
They're really pretty much done. Anyhow, First one was price, nice mower, but it won't fit on our tractor, and we buy a tractor that fits on a mower, and way too much money for what we have to mow. Terry went and got this price on one. It's basically kind of what we have now, but it's a lot heavier version of it. It's not, I'll say farm duty, it's more of a commercial duty. This one will fit on our tractor.
is this a CoStar's price?
It's a source well.
Yeah,
Source well.
yeah, this was from Brad, so, yeah.
Because we found out at the time source well was cheaper.
Yeah.
So,
That, the one that we had, it got low again, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Is it, you guys finished mowing with it?
Yeah, we finished this year with it.
So it's operational right now?
It is operational, it's probably gonna need bearings again, but, and we replace them a couple times a year. Like we did it twice just in the last time we mowed, the first bearings.
something's out of
Oh,
line.
yeah.
There's something messed up in it, but it just chews the bearings right now.
We've had the shaft welded on, conduit welded shaft on because the roller falls out of it.
They welded, what, 3 times this year?
Yeah, this time the whole thing came apart, it cracked. I think there was at least 3 or 4 cracks on it that they had to weld back together.
Plus just stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
How much was that? There was one that was priced before, I thought. It was wrong, and the price was like astronomical.
That was that
That was
first.
that
That's
one.
it.
How much was that one?
That one, all total, 130?
Well, that was with the tractor.
That's with the tractor.
Yeah, I'm not just mowing.
That was with the tractor.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
think of.
Hard tractor.
I think the mower was like,
56.
yeah, somewhere in there.
But the mower was like 75 or something like that. And the tractor,
Tractor was
yeah,
85.
85,
85.
yeah. But it was about like 36, 46.
I think it was 46.
30, 40,000 together.
Did you guys get a price from anybody else on it? Something similar to this one here?
We looked around, we had a couple other books, but the ones that we found didn't carry those. They carried just the, like, 0 turns, stuff like that.
Right.
How long is this price good for, Danny?
They told us, if you want it by next mowing season, you're gonna wanna order it for January.
So then we got next month.
Yeah.
Thanks to- yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. That was the comment I got from them, that you're looking at 5 months at least.
Yeah.
Before you see them all from the time you order.
See if there's some more searches.
We can look around and see what, I can see what all Terry come up with and go from there and see who all he reached out to. I know there was some he reached out to and they never got back to him.
Then we just put that.
Research that one.
So what's the price of the mower that you got that will fit?
What's that?
What's the price of the mower that will fit?
The one that will fit on our,
Yes. Obviously, the one for the town.
let me see, pick up. You're looking at if they bring it to us, I'm assuming that I'm right on this here, it'd be 27,275.
Yeah. Where all do you guys get pricing from?
This amount of Brad,
I was gonna say, that one's from Bradco.
I don't know, did you check with Stevenson? I mean, that's where we got the legal box, I don't know if they have this kind.
But I think you did check with them. I think you checked with them, you checked with Daughters. There's one of them too. Because I remember you asked them about the leaf box. We'll move it down to get the leaf box. I'll talk to Terry tomorrow, we'll see what.
Yeah.
There's a company in Vernon called Equipment that deals with that kind of stuff, attachments and whatnot. You're looking for a pro on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that kind of stuff over there, you get price from them, just work phone calls.
Back home.
Daughter.
Okay, next item, 2022 budget. You got that. Does Steve think that that's a good price for our Gallagher Township police protection jacket?
He didn't say he's not.
Okay, I just wondered on that.
He did review it.
Have you guys worked out an agreement with them, or you're still?
No, the agreement's pretty well worked out. I think it's sitting right now that they're looking at after the first of the year, the way they're gonna implement it.
Yeah, I think the last thing they did was the first half, they wanted coverage, we're looking at getting coverage.
Yeah.
So you were able to build that into your budget then, for the amount of time you're gonna spend for them?
Yeah. But as far, we know what they wanted and everything, and Steve worked it up for, equipment and man hours and stuff.
Jack, you have Act 13 impact fees, $9,000.
The year it goes down.
What did, so a couple years ago, we were like, well, there 2020, it's 17,000. Did you get a notice this year for 2022, whatever it is?
We usually don't receive a notice. It's a surprise. Well, 2 months beforehand, we usually.
But in 2021, it went down to 11,926.
That's it.
I think they're in the process of working that completely out, aren't they?
I don't know,
I think. And that's how that was,
Yeah.
they were stepping it down to its
Yeah.
going. Unless something would kick up and is growing around this area. You got the wages built in enough that things go crazy.
That's it.
I don't have a problem with the budget the way it's set. There's no tax increase, right?
Correct. We would just need a motion to advertise.
you just, on that ARPA grant fund, you just incomed it and expensed it out at the same time, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion to advertise the budget?
I'll make a motion we advertise the budget.
So,
Roll call, John?
Aye.
Kyle?
aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, boundary line signage. My personal feelings on that is that we do what was required by the courts, and we put the markers at the corners and at the roads. And if Dunstable wishes any on them long runs, they bring it to us and we decide whether we split the bill on it or.
Yeah.
I don't really see a reason for it.
I don't see the need to put them on.
Not with your systems today.
Yeah.
But if they want it,
I
I
do think
think,
we should put them on the corners and stuff, because that's basically part of the decision.
well, it's done.
Yeah.
All of it's done now, Miss Jackie.
Yeah.
All the points are marked for the,
They're marked,
Like
and our
marking way across the road.
surveyor is coming tomorrow to cement the pins in.
but he has them marked, he just has to go.
Yeah, they're marked.
to
Correct.
Pin, yeah.
I mean, do we want to put a road sign up that, if you do it, it'll be on 150, Cider Crest, Herman's, and German.
What about Gallagher Township line?
Well, we could do it out there where it crosses 664. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I think those are all key points.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's not an issue up there with Herman's in,
No.
so that's resolved.
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think those are all the key points.
So they just,
Yeah, if they want to put any up to the levels, then we'll decide on that later.
so, and we can have the road crew
Put signs up.
put signs up, or
Yeah.
we got a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to have signs put up marking the township boundary lines on the 150 Cider Crest, German, and Gallagher Township line on 662.
I'll second that.
Roll call, John?
Huh?
Kyle?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Tree trimming.
That was put out for bid. The meeting is Friday at 3. Because it was put in as part of the main inventory this time, if they come to the meeting. That's pretty much all on that, you know. Really, let's just need to decide, make sure we want for our specifications, you know.
This, it says bidders will be required to provide performance bond in the amount no less than 10% of the bid sum. So they're just putting that, they're just supplying us with that performance bond in that amount, correct?
Correct.
It's not actual, like,
They just have to show
clauses
proof
or
of it.
anything, it's just proof of that.
So they attach certified check or cashier check.
Or bond. Or bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to proof of bond. Whatever kind of bond they can get on the market. That's proof of that.
And it is in there that they have to be there, bid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's.
Yeah, that would be anybody saying that I get the same information you got. They'll all be at the same meeting.
And if they don't show up and hand it in, that bid's just automatically.
If they're not there, so it's going to be advertising, they have to be there. So they're there.
Yeah. If you don't even open it, you just.
One thing if they're not present, discard it.
Yeah.
So I guess another shows up here at 3 o'clock and leaves, that's who did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. We've got a couple of them asking already again, we've got a little terror, when we will, stuff will come out when it'll be.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. On to new business. Mike, are you willing to go back on the county sewer authority board? Okay, do I have a motion to send the paperwork for reappointment for Mike?
I'll make the motion that we reappoint Mike to the Clinton County Sewer Authority Board.
second motion.
Roll call, John?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, next thing is Dunnstown Fire Company, purchase rescue pumper. Mike, you wanna present?
So what we're asking the township to do is give us a letter of commitment for the loan. The fire company is actually going to secure the loan. So we're asking for a letter of commitment from the township.
Once they get the financial work handed to you, so
That's it, is it, you can provide me whatever kind of framework for the loan.
Okay, yeah. Those guys have that copy, but yeah, I can give that to you.
Okay. I'll take a look at it.
Do you guys have to do financials, or they're just gonna approve it? They're gonna approve you guys the loan on the basis that we write a letter stating that we're
So
gonna.
we had to provide them with our 990s, we have to provide them with a few different things. And the letter from the township is the last step that we have to have.
Okay.
okay, once you get all the paperwork, if you wanna get it directly to Tom,
I'll talk with you afterwards, I'll
Yep.
make sure we figure out how to get it.
Okay, yep, that's fine.
okay? Okay,
Explain more what a letter of commitment means. You're going to make the payments for that?
That's what a letter of commitment is. It's kind of a guarantee that the payments are being made.
Since the fire company can't afford it, we're gonna be making our payments on the new truck?
that's what that fire tax states that will be used for.
Okay, the balance is only $150,000. Is that what, we're not gonna go much over that?
Not understanding, because it'll be a yearly commitment.
Do you care if I share it, just so that everybody
No.
knows what's going on?
No, that's
Okay.
fine.
So, just before I do, that acquisition cost on there, did that go up quite a bit from last year?
Oh, yeah.
Or does that include some of the equipment stuff?
No, that is the fire truck right there. There is no equipment.
Right, so remember last year there was like 30 something for this to be added or something like that?
No.
So none of that stuff's in there.
And that's how much the truck went up last year.
So what about that others? Because I think there was stuff you guys had like laid out that you wanted selected or something for that
So
truck.
there is a purchase of 36,000 for equipment. That doesn't need to be purchased at this time.
Okay.
That's,
And it's not included, that's not what's, okay. What was the price of that thing last year? It was 7 something.
750 somewhere in there.
770.
It went up $90,000.
Yep.
It'll-
And at the
After
beginning
you
of
get
the
a
year,
you're
between
probably
a
going under 100.
5 to 10% increase.
So the acquisition, the cost of the truck is $842,000 or $842,683. There's a discount on the chassis for $11,063, and then there's a full prepaid discount, which we won't be. We won't be doing that. So they cross that off the list there. So that, hold on. Cause that 818 includes that stuff.
Well, you will be.
We'll be doing it free.
You will.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's,
We're gonna take out the loans
Yeah.
to pay them.
Yeah, the loan pays.
Okay, so the cost after all the discounts, is $818,000. Yeah, $165,000. So then, on here is $100,000 down payment, which would come from the fire tax fund. So the initial loan would be $718,165. And then there's two options, there's a 10-year and a 15-year option. The 10-year option is 3.32%, and that's fixed for the whole time period. There would be one annual payment, and that annual payment would be $84,350.24. If you do the 15-year loan, it's 3.38% for the interest rate. The first 10 years is fixed, and the last 5 will fluctuate, which who knows? Might go up, might go down. And at the 15-year loan, the annual payment would be $60,979.03.
There's no prepay penalties on this, is there?
No.
So there won't be any income coming into the fire tax fund until probably like March, April, something like that.
But it's all budgeted for,
I know, but I'm saying, is that about the time frame?
March, it
Yeah.
starts. Right.
How much came into that? Like, I know not everybody pays their taxes somehow, but do we know what, like, I mean, this is 2 years into it now, do we know what we've gotten revenue wise? Like, is it,
Well, last year in 2020, the actual amount was $127,018. Year to date, this year is $132,452. I anticipate you doing a little bit more, not much.
yeah. So we're getting nearly all of it.
Yeah.
We are,
Pretty close to it.
What would your recommendation, or what would you be looking at financing it? The 15 or the 10?
I'd like to see us do the 15 and work on trying to pay it off in the 10.
Before it goes to the adjustable.
It's our choice, we're paying for it.
It's not financing. I mean, they're doing the financing of it, so when the paperwork, they have to make the preferences of what they
Yeah,
do.
but I mean, we're the ones that,
Yeah.
Honestly, we're
Yeah,
getting,
we need a budget,
right?
I'd like to see a 15 in case something would come up, but
right.
15 a year. But I would like to see it get paid off in 10 years.
Do they say anything about like prepaid penalty or anything like that? There's no penalties for that stuff.
Nope. Yeah, the interest rate's close enough on it. I think 15 would be the safest bet.
I have no problems with it, as long as it don't go against our borrowing capacity. That's the reason we put the sewer back into authority and get ourselves
Yeah.
straightened up, so you come.
So I said last year, and that's, I'll repeat it again, I was 100% against the sewer authority being separated, potentially turn around and borrow for the fire truck. So I said if they could, obtain financing, that it's not messing with us here. I mean, I guess the only other concerns I would have is, and I brought this up last year, like, worst case scenario, the fire company goes under in 3 years. Wayne and I just talked about this a week or so ago. You know what do we do with a fire truck? I mean, I don't anticipate that to happen, but I'm just saying, those are things that we need to make sure the township's protected more or less.
Is there any issue with if we sign a letter of commitment that the township gets, possession of it if something would happen to the fire company? So we have something.
Somebody's gonna get all back.
Say if something happens.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to because,
Well, they can pay it for
well, the problem is, I don't foresee it happening, but let's just say it does. Dunnstown Fire Company shuts down before this truck's paid off, and we still have to continue to pay for it. We also got to pay to provide fire services.
Yeah.
Last year, Wayne said you talked to the city, and they basically would want $130-some thousand to provide coverage to our township, so
Maybe
we can't pay both, you know what I mean?
maybe we can negotiate the truck. But I don't foresee that.
No, but that's, I mean,
That was the thing I was questioning, if we had the truck, at least you would be able to resell it. If you still owe a year on it, you have something to, recoup.
there needs to be language somewhere.
That's what I'm
That's
getting at.
That's why I want to review the loan documentation, whatever they have, to see what is in there in case of default, what terms are in there.
Yeah, well, if we do the letter of commitment, we've got something to back up to,
And our letter of commitment would not be tying up any of our financial borrowing power of any sorts. I mean, it's money that we have already, we're just allocating it out. There's no issues.
I wouldn't see it, I mean, you're not submitting any financials, you're not submitting a loan application, not submitting anything along those lines to essentially put that burden on the township, but it's just simply stating that there's funds to be paid through the township for the fire truck. So there is something beyond whatever financial muscle the fire department might have. And that's what they're looking for. And that's, like I said, I want to see what documentation is there, to see what kind of commitment the township would be tied into. And I can't tell you just off the top of my head what it would be without seeing what the documentation is. So if there were some sort of commitment beyond just the letter of commitment by the township, obviously I'd bring that to your attention. Discuss it further.
I think the taxpayers, to me, want to know, with the money that you're pulling in, I mean, are they paying any bills at all? Because it seems like every month we're paying their bills at their fire hall. And if you're gonna make a $84,000 payment, is that gonna leave you enough money left in the fire tax fund to pay their other bills that they have? I mean, are you paying any bills out of the income?
The only bills that the township's paying is our fuel bills.
Okay.
We're
Well, and
paying,
your safety equipment, when it's needed.
yeah, we're paying thousands of dollars a month in bills. So, yeah.
Well, and you don't have any plans to raise the fire tax?
No, we see no reason to raise it. In fact, where it's sitting, we actually think at this point, they'll still be able to keep building the balance for in the future when the next truck needs replaced.
To me, my sister-in-law does Meals on Wheels in Woodward Township, and she's appalled at some of the conditions that these people on fixed incomes are living and how they are living in their homes, trying to save their money, especially now with inflation, just out of control. And it's just, it's a hard pill to swallow for somebody thinking that you really need a brand new vehicle like that at that cost. When you have so many other fire departments within 5 miles of you, that they all have the same type of equipment. I wish they would have went to a vehicle where they could have gotten a low interest loan, because they said they couldn't get one of those because of the type of vehicle they're in. That's just a concern. People I'm talking about with, that's their concern. They should have went to a vehicle that they could have applied for, one of the low interest loans.
I think they did go to a multi-purpose on this, didn't you?
Yeah.
And a low-interest loan through the state of Pennsylvania is 2% loan to the fire service, and it only covers a very small portion of that loan.
Right.
At the most you can get is $200,000.
The gentleman that had spoken over at the fire company said the vehicle that you guys were looking at didn't qualify because it was more of a rescue truck.
The original
That was for a
rescue
FEMA
truck
loan.
did not apply for a FEMA truck. A straight rescue truck does not apply. That's why when people were concerned about that, we combination this into a two-piece truck, which is a rescue pumper, which now benefits the community as a pumper.
Only 30% of the time. 70% of the time is somewhere else. It's in
And
Millhall,
70%
Lockheed,
of
or
the same
IG.
time, people are coming into this community and helping this community out. So you don't want to show all your figures, show them all. We got mutual aid agreement throughout this whole county for every fire company, including your own.
I still
Mutual
don't
aid comes
understand
in.
why, yeah, but
Mutual aid
Woolwich
comes
isn't
in.
paying, taxpayers aren't paying for
Yes,
burning
they
the
are.
trucks.
Woolwich gets.
No, they're not.
Woolwich gets a fire tax themselves.
No, they're
There's
not.
2 different fire taxes. Do your research.
I live
You
there.
got 2,
I
yeah.
live
do
there.
it.
Let's get it back
Like
to, this is back, it's not between Woolwich and Dunnstown.
No, I'm just saying,
This
there is
about
other
Dunnstown.
fire taxes out there.
And, there's.
I think what she's saying is the concern is, it sounds like the fire company is not contributing anything towards this truck. With this letter of whatever you're calling it, commitment, basically it sounds like you're co-signing for a loan. And at the end of the day, you're making the payments, and after 15 years, once it's paid off, the vehicle gets turned over to Dunnstown Fire Company. What does the township benefit from that? What's the return of investment on that 15 years payment?
Our fire protection.
You get fire protection no matter what. Per state law, you're required to go ahead and provide fire protection.
Yeah, but when we leave here, Lock Haven's not mandated to give it to us. We gotta buy it.
Right, so you're under contract, you have an agreement for a resolution that Dunnstown Fire Company will be your sole source of fire protection. So when they buy this rescue pumper, add to their fleet, they've already got a pumper, they've already got a tanker, so now you're adding a second pumper, and that vehicle goes 70% of the time. And these are stats coming from the dispatch center. 70% of the time, most of them is over on Interstate 80, Green Township, Mill Hall, Lamar Township. What protection does this municipality now have for that vehicle? It's gone, it's out. You're going to rely on mutual aid coming in. So the concern is taxpayers are paying for this vehicle to provide protection within your township. But if you as township supervisors are allowing that vehicle to go outside of its jurisdiction, mutual aid primarily is what those stats show. What's the return of investment? Because I could tell you, if even in Pine Creek Township, where I'm at, if Woodward Fire Company was responding as much as Dunnstown does to mutual aid, and my house burned down and I'm paying for a vehicle, I'm either coming after the fire company or I'm coming after the township, because you have an agreement. At the end of the day, the township is responsible for providing fire protection.
When have they not provided this township with the protection it's needed? When have they not? Show us that.
I don't have the stats.
You have.
But
the
right
stats
there,
for-
you have
the stats
70%.
for everything else. Where's the stats that say they do not give us our protection?
What
For
doesn't
the
warrant them?
dispatch, 70% of your calls are outside of the township. 30% of your calls are here. The majority of what that vehicle is going to do is heavy rescue or vehicle rescue on Interstate 80 and the highways. They have agreements with the other fire departments.
The whole county does.
Yes, they do, but your primary, when you listen to the dispatch, you're either squad 5 or squad 6 that gets dispatched.
Let's move on with this, because the mutual aid agreements and stuff is not.
Well, you shouldn't move on. There's a concern that this vehicle, you're paying for a vehicle that may not be in this jurisdiction, and the taxpayers have a right to know why. Why should they be paying for a
Has it ever
vehicle?
not been in this jurisdiction when it was needed?
Well,
Has
talk to
it
the
ever
mutual aid
not?
companies
That's what I'm asking.
I'd have to go through it. But do you want to accept that
Come with
risk?
the stats for everything else, please, next month, come with the stats that tell us.
It's not my job.
what
It's
Yeah,
your
that's really your job.
It's your job as a supervisor to provide fire protection emergency services to this township for the means and the extent. That's a state law.
Have we not?
Find out how many calls we've scratched in Woodward Township.
Have
And
we
you guys don't even have Woolwich on the box. If we want to get that to that picky about it,
This has nothing to do with Woolwich. I understand.
I understand that.
We're talking about the Woodward Township residents, not.
But it was brought up that you have mutual aid coming in. So if
Let's
you
get back to
so
what we were.
let's do this hypothetical real quick before we end.
That's your fire company business, who's on what?
I'm talking about the vehicle. Just as she has talked to individuals, I've had individuals in the township as a consultant. I'm not going to reveal who my clients are, despite what people want, and snicker about it all you want.
Yeah, because I asked you wanted to represent us.
I'm not
and give us
obligated
information.
to provide who my clients are.
Let's
If you
get back to
wanted
where
to
we're at.
reference to us, that's what we asked for, some reference.
George, let's just take care of business.
Bring us, make sure Tom gets the information he's asked for. So we have it before us. Tom, give us a recommendation. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Kyle?
Yeah, I was just looking at the budget numbers with some of this stuff on the fire tax, just trying to do the math in my head about like the payment breakdowns and stuff like that.
I'll give you a hint, you can't afford it.
That turnout gear stuff, you guys are good on that, right?
Yeah.
So that's not gonna be a cost going forward. I guess what I'm looking at right now is to see like either if we go forward with it, if there's extra money to pay ahead, or if it can benefit both sides, if we can do the truck and instead of having a large excess in our funds, can we go to a 3/4 mil fire tax to compromise for both sides and still have money in the account, and then, I don't know, 7-8 years down the road, it starts looking like another truck's gonna need replaced, start gradually taking it back up to a mil.
I think you'd have to have a,
Because
I mean, if you have to have a balance of X amount of dollars to look at something like that.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because like that budget that we laid out the first year of that fire tax, like I said, those were all like first year costs. A lot of those costs don't happen again. So now like,
All that we got caught up now.
right. So now you got, if we go with a 15-year loan payment, that's, let's say $61,000, and we're bringing in 137, maybe potentially gonna be 140 a year before long. You know, it's $80,000 extra sitting there each year, minus the few costs that there's gonna be, you know, for maintenance on the trucks, which I'm assuming one of the biggest costs of this budget in the maintenance is the rescue truck that you currently have.
Yep.
So that's gonna drop a little bit.
Well, we have to be careful because I guess if they order the truck for the next, they won't receive it for 2 years. So we're going to be putting money into,
If the truck is ordered, when, did they give you guys an idea when?
14.5 to 16.5 months.
Is that a normal time period or is that
No.
disaster related?
No, that's way out, that's not even a guarantee.
Well, I meant if it's worse because of,
Oh, well,
you know,
because
what's
can't
going
get
on.
people to work and can't get the materials and.
Usually what?
Usually 12 months, a year, usually.
But what I'm saying, like currently, the fire tax
I
has.
wouldn't have a problem with it as long as we got some kind of fund build up.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like we're,
Yeah, if you had a
right now
balance,
there's 154,000 in there.
say if when it hits a balance and holds is 300,000 or something like that.
The idea that the truck might not be here for 2 years is really beneficial, and sort of more to the point that
Yeah.
maybe we can look at 3/4 mil.
The 100, you have to pay that for 100,000, you pay that to work.
Which we have, there's 100.
Yeah, that's there already.
There's.
There's 154 there, but there's gonna be the allocation from this year coming in. I say allocation, but the tax base coming in.
Yeah.
And then potentially 2023's money might come in before the truck even gets here.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be something to look at in the 2023
So what
budget.
happens if you do decide to drop it at 3/4 and you see you need more money? Then you have to tell us we have to pay a bill. We have to go back up. If you
Well,
decide to drop it.
I would, with inflation being the way it is, you know, I don't know who's going to be paying for real estate taxes. I didn't want to inflate the numbers.
Well, that's why I asked you what we've been getting in the past 2 years. And it sounds like we've been getting damn near all of it.
Yeah, but I think the worst is yet to come. So I think we need to sit tight.
I mean, it's something to look at in the 2023 budget.
Well, it says the first payment's due in 2022. Is that, what if the truck's not here? Does it matter? Why would you pay $85,000 or $61,000 this year when the truck's not gonna get here till next year? So is that accurate or no?
That's accurate. Yeah, that's what it is.
So you'll start paying for it even when they start, okay.
If they wouldn't, they would charge you the interest for the year on that money.
What's the average lifespan on a fire truck?
They're running for 95.
The one you have currently is a 95?
25 years old.
Well, I heard you say about 7 or 8 years to replace the one.
NFPA is saying 20 years, but obviously not every fire company can do that.
Right, I didn't know how old the truck was.
We have a 95, a 2000, and 2005.
Are you taking one out of service?
The 95.
95. We'll sell it.
And that money will
And
come
that
back
money
to
will-
your,
That
I
money
would
goes
assume you're
towards-
probably gonna put it on that one.
Yep.
So it's blank.
you know.
Does this truck qualify for the AFG grant that just opened?
No,
So you can't apply for the AFG grant at all?
we've already tried.
The one that just opened?
Yeah, we've got air packs in, 10 companies in Clinton County have air packs in it right now, but we've already asked the grant writer, and this won't, it doesn't meet the requirements for the area that we live in.
The truck doesn't meet the requirements?
Doesn't meet the AFG requirements for.
Well, I can't look at a truck that does.
Truck still.
Wonder- This area, when it comes to grants, for this township, they go by your median income. And it hurts us.
Median income,
Yes.
township?
When you go to apply for a lot of grants, it goes on how they stack them. And apparently this township has a fairly high income.
I'd take those rich people out of here,
You know? So,
because I don't see too many rich people in, other towns. I did not know that, thank you for.
Okay, you're gonna get Tom the stuff, Tom's gonna look it over and be back. And you got a deadline to meet on this for the price?
By the end of December.
So you have to sign with them by the end of the year to secure that price,
Yeah, January 1st, price goes
Okay.
the old sales pitch. Well, they proved themselves right if that's the case, because last year it was $700 and some $1,000.
Well, they told you,
We had 2 increases this year so far.
they told you last year that that's exactly what we would, over there at that financing.
What happens when steel prices come down next year? The truck goes back down to like $700 and some $1,000.
Something.
Huh?
So they won't up the price of the truck.
I predict the economy crashes in 2 years. It'll be 2008 all over again.
One,
Our number prices, they do the same thing.
Never say never.
Okay, police report, Kristen?
Okay, so for the month of October, we had a total number of traffic stops of being 44. Citations for those traffic stops is 17. 21 written warnings and 6 verbal warnings. We had a total number of criminal arrests of 7. 0 motor vehicle accidents, and a total call for service is 174.
Thank you. Fire company report, I guess we hash fire company business out.
Was that truck purchase thing there underneath with the fire company thing? Was that the second line there, or is that a different item?
That's actually a different item.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that's a different item.
Oh, then we better back up on that.
Yeah, that was just, well, we talked about before, I know Wayne and I talked about this, looking to get another truck for the town here. Just a pickup truck,
Right.
not a key tag. Basically getting guys' ideas what you're looking at. Originally, I had a ferry pricing gas trucks and diesel. But I guess in my opinion, we're gonna start plowing with it, and if we are getting plowed for it, diesel would be a much better deal, or, better purchase.
Well, that's kind of just on a wish list there, that's,
Yeah.
it was just thrown in the,
Yeah, the only thing we have to look at on it is it's probably gonna take 8 months anyhow. Whenever we decide to order one.
I mean, we got some life left at International out there, but it's getting sketchy.
That's why I said that, and we just have to make sure we don't let it get too close to the other one dying, and,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's nothing that we have to do right now.
I'm not in favor of it now or any time in the foreseeable future. I mean, in my opinion, that Chevy is not worth a whole lot wholesale wise.
No.
that run it until it's dead. And I mean, that's what 90% of business people in this area do. They aren't trying to look flashy.
Yeah, you're not gonna sell that one for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point right now, the only way I can see that is if something major went on that international, that you needed the availability of a third plow.
Yeah.
But
I'd rather wait 2 years and let the money build and get another F-550 dump truck. Because honestly, that pickup truck, I mean, Danny used the whole tools at the job site more or less. I mean, and ride around to different areas with it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's basically what we do.
It's not a workable truck
No,
in
they
the sense of like.
Yeah, that's why I was looking to do like a one-ton with the, say, put a plow on it and stuff, so it was more of a workable vehicle instead of.
Or you can haul trailers with it. This
Yeah.
one, you can't haul trailer.
Yeah, the one they have now, you can't,
Right.
they can't move the trailer around or anything with it.
You know, if that international is gonna take a dive in a few years, I'd rather not replace that and get a F-150, not get a pickup truck, honestly. But I mean, I get it that you guys want to put numbers together for the budget, but I don't really think we even need to consider it anytime soon. I mean, I think that truck's got some life left in it.
no, I'd rather go up there on that mower purchase.
Well, I mean,
Well, the motor would kind of definitely have to
Yeah.
do something that's, you know,
I don't foresee anything on that international. When they did the last work on it, the clutch is getting bad, but that's probably $3,500 there. When the frame gives out, which is rusted bad, then it's done.
I get it when, you know, with that Chevy pickup truck, it gets to the point where the frame's starting to need welded to pass inspections and stuff, then maybe it's time to start considering some other things. But serious weld, I'm not talking about a little patch weld because, I mean, it's worth putting a little bit of money into, but we'll know when it's time. I don't think it's time to worry about it right now.
You know, don't pass inspection, that's
Yeah, well, it just depends.
you know.
Don't pass inspection because tires will get tires.
No, I don't. Frame on it.
I know, I'm just saying, if it's something beyond what the truck's worth, then that's different.
Okay, now we'll drop back down. When I read that, I was questioning like, well, I looked at it like you did, Kyle.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was a continuation of that thing up above there or what.
Okay, zoning report.
Are you asking from the floor?
Is there anything from the floor?
Not from me, but I didn't know about everybody else.
I kind of figured we'd get into that fire company stuff. That was pretty much from the floor.
I really wasn't done though. So if you're gonna have the floor, I'd like my 3 minutes or however many minutes it is.
Okay.
I'd like to read from the Express. It's from April 22nd, 2021, and I believe Mr. Bottorff, you may have written this. And this is a paragraph from an article entitled Dunnstown Fire Company Addresses Need for New Engine Rescue Unit. The paragraph reads, we can confirm, and this is from Mr. Fetzer, it doesn't say which one. We can confirm that we would not request the purchase of the vehicle come from anywhere but our fundraising efforts, donations, and or funds received by the fire tax. So my question is, where are the fundraising efforts, and where are the donations, and how much of that is going to be applied? Because I'm sorry, I'm still speaking. And it's incredibly rude to snicker when people are speaking.
Especially you, Mr. Love.
I didn't say a word.
You're up there snickering. I can see the smirk on your face.
Really?
Yes, I can.
And if I could continue, I'm not really sure where I left off, but... Oh, I'm sorry. The fire company walks in, they say, we would like $100,000 down, and you're going to pay all the payments on this, and it's going to be in our name. That's really what this is going to be, the letter of commitment. And this is all on the back of the taxpayers of Woodward Township.
When you're saying our name, are you a taxpayer?
I am a federal and state taxpayer, yes.
Are you
Your township enjoys state and federal grants and monies from my pocket. That's a fact, and so does this fire company.
So,
We all pay taxes.
So you are a Woodward Township resident paying taxes?
No, I am not, but I just told you why I am here.
Okay.
I am also the founder, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Rosalia. I'm also the founder of the Clinton County Watchdog Group, and we seek transparency and accountability within government. And one of the main reasons that I'm here is because this is an issue, there's a concern of taxpayers, and they need to know about these things. And there's a lot of secrecy here. There's a lot of numbers flying about, and there's no real true information. And the taxpayers deserve better than that.
Where is the secrecy?
Where are the numbers? What is this letter of commitment? Is the public going to be presented this in the future? Or is this a done deal? Is this it?
Didn't we just state that they were to give this stuff to Mr. Rosalia to review?
Yes, sir. Now, is the public going to see that review?
I would assume that they will.
Because all I hear is a bunch of, yeah, well, we may do this, we might do that, but there's no numbers, there's no proof of anything. And this has been smoke and mirrors since the very beginning. If you remember, we were going to go ahead and we were going to get rid of the sewer house. And then the municipal police officer was going to go in and they were going to have their own office at the fire company. And everything was going to be consolidated, which I love because I'm a Republican and you should love that too. But it went the opposite direction. And you grew government. You recreated the sewer authority at the cost of taxpayers, and now you're giving money in a fire tax, and you're not going to be able to afford it. You're going to have to raise a fire tax.
And where's your evidence to that?
Well, I already have it, but you didn't hear it last time.
Where's the evidence?
There's no way that you can do that. You are supporting the fire company. You're supporting them by paying their bills.
Where is your evidence that we're going to raise the fire tax?
You're going to have to. You're not going to have any choice.
Provide the proof to us.
Okay. When's your next meeting? I'll provide you the proof. But I have to have the numbers first. I'll do your job for you. And that's all I really had to say.
All you do is file a right to know. Everything we got is...
I shouldn't have to file a right to know in order to get your information out there. You should be doing that already.
Would you explain the right to know?
I think that you understand what the right to know request is.
I do, thank you. I understand 30-day extensions. I know the process very well. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for transparency from you to the people who have to pay the bills. And that means numbers, what are the terms of the loan, what do these guys have to volunteer to it, what's their fundraising efforts, more solidity.
We actually had a meeting over at the fire hall, financial people. You were there.
Oh, the very beginning one, the second meeting?
You were over there. Kyle, didn't we have that meeting? At the fire hall with the financial.
We held 2 or 3 meetings there. I think the third one, a lady came in from some financial.
Where's all this stuff that's hidden?
That's forever ago. Everything has changed, just as I had said. The sewer authority has been recreated. You were going to get rid of the sewer house. You were thinking about doing that. You were going to consolidate everything, and now you're going the opposite direction.
This township does not even own that sewer house.
I don't really care. I've asked you about the sewer house for literally years and never gotten an answer. So I definitely don't care about it now. You're not going to get rid of it now.
It don't belong to us to get rid of. It belongs to the sewer authority.
You can call it anything you like. We all know what's going on. Like the transfer of debt to the sewer authority in order to get you more buying power. It doesn't change your financial situation. You still have X amount of dollars in X account to pay whatever bills. And you can float money wherever you like, but the facts are the facts.
Are you saying what we're doing is illegal?
I'm not saying it's illegal, but it's definitely a little shady.
I guess you'll have to do what you feel right. It's Attorney General. If it's illegal, what we're doing, we recommitted a sewer authority to put the township back so it wasn't upside down, so it had borrowing power. We didn't use any of the borrowing power. We have no intentions to. There, if they finance that truck, if all the paperwork's right, it doesn't go against us. We passed an ordinance with a fire tax that it will be used as it was ordinance to be used.
Okay.
Where's the secrecy?
But tonight's a perfect example. Where's the numbers? Where's the loan?
It's written.
Where is everything?
Numbers, see, well, what more do you want?
The terms of the loan. What is the balloon payment at the end of the loan? It's 5 years. What is it? What is the max? Is it 16.99%? Is it 28? There's all kinds of things to discuss, but people don't want to discuss. They want to flip things through as quickly as they can, with as
Where
little
do you
taxpayer
find-
involvement as possible.
Where can you find somebody that is gonna give you out 10 years what they're gonna raise that interest rate? That's the reason they made the statement that they wanted to take and pay it early.
The point of the entire issue is, where are the numbers? Where's the information? Where's the stuff for people to crunch and look at and evaluate and review? That's all.
I think the best thing to do is, let them generate the information and then hold another meeting specifically on that, like we did last year, represent it since it's all new. I mean, the stuff's.
I'm not against that, Kyle, but I'm against pushing them over the January 1st deadline and getting another $80,000 or $100,000 increase.
Well, I don't think that's gonna be the situation, but I think we have time, I don't know, they might need, what, a week or two to get information? And have a meeting and lay it all out and let everybody review it and.
I mean, that's up to you. I mean, it's gonna sit here and do the same thing. They're gonna sit here and argue that it's secret.
Well, I don't really think there's anything secret going on. I mean, I have a copy here. The financing thing from Volunteers Financing Services. I mean, it's what I read off earlier with the breakdowns. I don't suspect any of that's gonna change.
No.
Why is only one truck running?
There was another truck they looked at. It was a
Cammy.
and there was some. I'm not a fire truck expert, so I don't know, but there was some differences in the two trucks, and can we leave? They're gone now, correct? They shut their plant down or something in this area.
Yep, they are mid of next year, they're moving.
So,
I know there was some
requested by the township, if I may, I'll answer the question, that's requested by the township, we spec out multiple units. Okay. They set up a board, a panel to review those and determine what was the best purchase by.
So they decided.
Their advisory board went through, we made recommendations, we went over everything, and their advisory board advised which one they felt was the most appropriate. We listened to the community. We originally was looking at a rescue. Members of the community came to us and asked us to change this to a rescue pumper combination so that we would be able to provide water to.
Who asked that?
I'm sorry?
Who asked the combo?
There were several people that came through to the committee members and so forth. We did everything we could do to respond to the request of the community. And then the advisory board decided that this was the unit that was most appropriate. We, as promised, we looked for, when we originally came, the township was looking to get the loan for us. We found that was not the most appropriate way. We have done our research, did what we need to do, and we are now looking to secure that loan ourselves. I don't know if that kind of answers some of those questions.
Is it the Pierce that you're looking at? The one you guys were talking about?
Is there any way to get a rescue number? Listen, the absolute respect for you guys, so don't jump on top of me. But, you know, I mean, like, see you guys on fire calls all the time. Believe me, I respect you guys, you know, volunteering your time. $800,000 is a lot of money.
Sure.
So, you know, is it possible to get that kind of a unit on a commercial chassis a little cheaper?
The costs continue to go up.
I understand.
And when you say that kind of unit, are you saying?
A common unit, so a rescue bumper on a Freightliner chassis versus going with a custom chassis on it. So it's too much weight, right?
You could get a commercial chassis. The price difference, in all honesty, is not gonna be astronomical. You know what I mean? I mean,
That's what you're asking, if it could be
Not good.
Yeah, I mean,
In our fire company meeting, it was brought up by a member that hasn't been around for a month of Sundays. He wanted to know who decided to put water and what the price difference was. And the price difference of putting the water on was less than 50,000, but we also have now another engine in case, an engine, because your ratings go by what you have. So that piece is actually gonna be classified as another engine to the township if something happens to one of the other ones. So we've tried to do our homework where we have multiple pieces put together, despite what people think and what we're doing. We put a lot of time and work, and there's a lot of knowledge in our fire department, and we used outside resources with even more knowledge. So we just didn't throw this together, and despite what everybody thinks, and I'm not picking on it, I'm not. We work very hard for the money that we have. We have tons of bills that the township doesn't even see. Next month, I'll be more than glad to bring them and read them off to everybody. We're sitting on a building that's over worth $1 million. I mean, it's a lot of upkeep. You know, we have guys that spend countless hours there trying to repair things. We have to get contractors to come in because come to our fundraisers. There's 7 of us that do the fundraising every month. So we do work very hard for what we have. We're not poor. We don't have the money to get this. This is what the whole fire tax was created for. There's tons of municipalities in the state of Pennsylvania that have much larger fire taxes than we do.
At least 200
You know. So it's not that we're just spending money, buying something to just spend money. Honest, we are not. It's something that needs to be done. It's a safety issue. We drive in a fire truck now and the lights go out. When you're driving down the road, the lights go out. It spent 2 days at the garage last week trying to get parts for it. We still don't have what went there to get fixed because they're still trying to get the parts. So it's just a numerous things, and it's hard to educate people that aren't in the fire service. I try to explain to it as much as you can. It's just that it's not an easy. It's not like going to the local dealership and getting a car. It's just not. And the price isn't going to go down. If we wait for 10 years. The price is just going to keep going up. It's never going to come down.
NFPA isn't going to change their standards, and it's made outside of Pennsylvania,
Guys,
and they have to comply with
and
it.
nobody's saying you guys don't work hard. I mean, I don't, I understand there's a lot of pride involved, and, everybody gets down in shape. I get it. All I'm trying to say is, the world, we are in inflation right now at a 31-year high. Everybody's taking a beating on everything. So, I mean, if you're looking at a 15-year run, and that would be 60 some a year, right?
Yes. 61,000.
61.
Could we, give everybody, I mean, if you did 0.6 of a mil, you're still gonna pay that. And you're gonna have a little extra. And you're gonna give your seniors and some of the other people a little bit of a break, and they're still gonna have the money for the job.
We didn't say we were against that.
I'm just throwing it out there. That's the reason why, nobody, I'm not here to yell and scream, you know what I mean? I understand, I understand their end of it, and then, we're the ones paying. So, I mean, we can all just kind of,
I don't think
Yeah,
we
that's
have
enough.
three
That's
quarters of a mil. That's why I said 3/4 of a mil, because I think you need to make the truck payment, obviously, and you need to have a little something going forward. But I mean,
So for $134,000 is 100% of the fire tax. If you reduce it by 25%, it's $32,500. Subtract from that, you still have $100,000. If the fire truck payment is only $61,000, you still have almost $40,000 left at the end of the year by dropping it to 3/4.
I think that's why I proposed that idea, and I think that's still gives us a little bit of
have
to
crystal ball, you don't know what's
potentially pay it off early, because I think we do need to have some funds building in that account, that we have the ability to get out of the loan at the end.
You gotta have funds built for a down payment on the next one.
You're still gonna have that though.
Look, I mean, as long as we can provide, show that it's there. But at the same technique or situation, you are saying it's there. Right there, she's saying that we gotta raise taxes.
The other one's a 2000 and then a 2005 or something like that, is that correct?
Yeah.
But this new one can take a little pressure off one of those trucks, doesn't it?
It's gonna be, we'll only use one of the, we'll only have to take one in for certain things. Yes, it will. We can't get rid of those other ones because of the water.
Right.
Insurance.
You
So,
can extend their
That's
life.
the ratings and stuff, right?
Yeah, so,
You can extend their life by,
unless something that I can't predict. I mean, we're in good shape with the other ones. They're older, but they're in good shape, so.
So we're not taking one of those?
They're gonna last you.
Yes,
You're taking
the
the white
rest,
one.
nothing, the rescue is
Taking a rescue.
But we have 2 engine tankers that are over there with the 1,500 gallons of water on them that we have to maintain for the township.
and Eric, when you're a bit about going with a different style chassis. From being around equipment all my life, not saying they couldn't, but I think you would find the maintenance on that piece of equipment would pile up in a hurry.
I mean, the trucks we drive are Freightliners, and I'm pretty sure you drive a Freightliner too.
I do.
Yeah. So,
But
I mean, so why don't you drive a KWRP? Because they're expensive.
no, because I went for service in this area.
Okay.
You know, I went for what I could get serviced in the area. Easy.
So you go down to X? Okay.
But when you get a specialized piece of equipment like theirs and the weight distribution and stuff on it, it's gonna beat the tar out of them. On the suspensions and stuff on them. You know,
NFPA has actually had verbiage on this where they do not recommend using like a commercial chassis or anything. Because they've had in the past, departments have done that, and they're exactly right because of the weight ratio and everything. Once you add water equipment, they've actually seen chassis snap. They've overloaded the apparatus due to that, and they do not recommend it for a safety issue, so. Yeah.
because if it was a possibility and it was just for a name, I would say, no, you go to Freightliner, you go to Peterbilt, but it's, yeah. If it was just strictly a tanker, that would be a different story. You know? Anything else from the floor?
I just got one when we're talking about the fire tax, trying to lower it. So right now, under a 1 mil, if everybody did pay their taxes, you should be generating $137,500 annually. How much of the foreign fire tax does the township distribute to Dunnstown Fire Company?
How much of that?
The foreign fire tax. So if you have fire insurance that's outside the Commonwealth, it's called a foreign fire tax. It's for the Relief Association. The Relief Association can use those funds to buy equipment training within the department. So of the $11,775.46 that Woodward Township received this year, how much of that went to the fire company, to Dunnstown? Because if you factor that in as money that they could use for equipment, they're looking for probably $30,000, $40,000 in equipment. They could take that money and offset those expenses. So instead of having that $137,000, I think you could actually lower that fire tax a portion to compensate for that. And then the other is Act 13 funds. You're still receiving those. So how much of those go towards fire employees? Because those are two that you could allocate the funds to. So you have what I'm getting at is that you have different sources of income that could go towards fire emergency services to reduce that tax burden on the taxpayers. So instead of having a 1 mil, you may go down to 3/4, maybe half, to cover the cost.
Like we said about the Act 13 money, they're phasing it out.
Right, they are.
So we can't we can't put it in there as a stable number for projecting over 5 to 10 years.
It's still money.
But for the next couple of year budgets, if it's still going to be an income, you could factor that into your budget and offset that fire tax. And then the other question I've got is, you're on the committee for the vehicle committee, correct?
I was, yes.
Okay. 2 questions. One, I remember the meeting, the question was public participation. That was voted no, to have members of the public on the committee.
We did have one.
Who was the one?
Trevor Reeder sat on it, Bobby Depp sat on it, Gary Malott, and
But we're talking township residents.
Trevor Reeder.
Okay, that's one. Who else?
I don't think there was a number specified. It was asked to have somebody from the general public put on it, and we did.
Trevor asked me on it.
Trevor asked to be on it.
And then my question is, since you're on the committee, will you abstain from any votes on this issue, since you had direct input on which vehicle was to be purchased?
I didn't make a recommendation on it.
You were on the committee, though. Whether you made a recommendation or not, you were on the committee, and therefore it's a perceived conflict of interest.
Would that be a conflict, Tom?
That's not how much input I think we had into it. I wasn't around whenever those meetings were conducted. I'm not sure what took place at them. So that's something I try to look into.
When you're saying how much input I had into it,
We don't know. The public doesn't know because they weren't open to the public, to my knowledge. The discussions, the meetings, were they open to the public?
I more or less didn't have any input, to know the truth, because they were all fire experts. Pretty much, they got everybody.
But you put yourself on the committee. You could have denied and said, I don't want to be on the committee, and farmed it out to somebody else, but you yourself put yourself on that committee.
I didn't put myself on that committee.
I sat here at the meeting, and your name came up to be on the committee.
They had one supervisor on the committee.
There was one supervisor, and they asked me. I didn't put myself on anything.
But to go through the whole process, whether you had direct input, indirect input, you were still on a committee that had influence as to which vehicle was to be purchased, because you only had 2. Granted, KME's out the door, so that leaves you with Pierce, but what other vehicles did you as the committee consider in lieu of that? Because there are used apparatus out there, and I'm not saying buy a 2000 or a 1998, but there are other alternatives to buying a brand new piece of apparatus. If you're looking at reducing cost, why not look at a lesser priced vehicle that can still meet the needs? And I did a right to know to the township, asking for what does the township identify as the needs in terms of fire emergency services, and on the right to know request was that there are none. So how can the township approve a vehicle without identifying the need for such a vehicle? Are you just taking it upon what the fire department tells you? Or have you polled the community? Have you discussed amongst yourselves and said, this is what we absolutely need? Maybe you do need a rescue pumper. I don't know. But how did the committee, or how did the township at the end of the day come to the conclusion that this is what is needed and we're going to pay for that vehicle? Because at the end of the day, it's the taxpayers that are paying for it.
We're not disputing that part of it.
But how did the township identify the needs of what you need?
Exactly what you asked. You had asked for a committee to be put together, which they did.
I didn't ask for a committee.
Well, there at the meeting, somebody sure did.
Wasn't me.
But it was put together, right? There was a committee, they come up with it. If you want to know what my input was in it, I sit there and listen. I don't even think I put a vote in on which truck, did I?
But again, I'm asking, what has the township identified as the needs for coverage within the township? You have to identify that before you can say, and whether it's Dunnstown or if you farm it out to another emergency service provider, At the end of the day, they're a service provider. You're in agreement with them. You should have identified a need and said, this is our needs, can you support our needs? But when I did a right to know request, the response was, there are none.
But you want to check on that, Tom, and I think when Bobby went back on it, because that is a fire company in our community, everything, we were in compliance with everything, whatever act you had brought up before.
It's a second-class township code. It clearly states in there that you will provide fire emergency services to the means and the extent determined by the township. And I had asked for, what are your needs? Because just like if I hire a landscape contractor, I identify this is what I need, and I start looking at different contractors and say, can you provide services to satisfy those needs? The same thing should be occurring with whatever fire service you choose to contract with. So at the end of the day, you still have an answer. What are the needs of the township in terms of fire and emergency services? Or are you just relying on, as a lot of jurisdictions throughout the Commonwealth do, they rely on the fire department to say, hey, this is what you need in the department. But it's not up to them, it's up to the township. And if you haven't identified that, then how can you move forward and say, this is the vehicle that will, quote, satisfy our needs?
We're doing a check on that, Tom, because Bobby had told us we were completely covered the way things sit under the laws.
I think the answer to the question is like, we've already said it before, we're required to provide fire protection.
And we
for
provide
our
right there.
township residents.
And right there it is.
But to the means and the extent, how have you identified the means and the extent? That's right in the second-class township code. It's a state law. You have to identify that. For the right to know request that I asked for and the response I received, the township has not done so.
Have you asked that right, or give that right to know that other townships?
Yep. Yes, I have.
And you have their contracts and stuff with
Yes, I do.
all of them?
You're not getting them.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You went to Colebrook and you seen their contract?
Throughout the Commonwealth, the townships that I had submitted right to know requests, I have received responses, whether it's they have identified or they have not. I've received responses from multiple townships throughout the Commonwealth. But those other townships are of no concern. We're talking about Woodward Township here.
Well, and I said that our solicitor said we were covered the way we were sitting. So
How could you be covered if you haven't identified the needs?
I think, Paul, would you get the information and then you'll get your answer.
Okay. Not just me, I think the fine residents of Woodward Township deserve that answer as well. Plus the fire department. I mean, in order to provide a service, I think the fire department would appreciate that as well. Saying, hey, this is the needs. If they can't meet it, then they should be working with you and say, hey, let's work together so we can satisfy those needs, whether it be training, equipment, whatever. That's the communication that should exist, and believe me, it does not exist throughout the
Now,
Commonwealth.
the residents in here, if your needs not been met by the fire company, if you had any.
I don't think anybody can answer that until their house catches on fire.
Mine did, they were there, yeah.
Hopefully nobody's.
I don't
getting
want
hurt.
to need to
I'm not going to
I think essentially that, and I do remember we talked about this before, but like, it has to do with like the contract we're supposed to have with the fire company, like the description or whatever. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, it's an agreement, so whether it's a contract or you have the resolution to identify Dunnstown, I mean, if you didn't identify Dunnstown, you could have identified Lock Haven or
Right.
whoever.
Back when we said because it is in our township providing our needs, we were fine at this point.
Right.
So,
But I'm referring to what he's talking about, second class township codes and stuff about, there's actually written contracts that need, not, I don't know if there's anything official like that.
Well, you have a resolution, that's official.
Right.
That's a contract, that's an official agreement. But like I said, the verbiage, and not to beat a dead horse, the verbiage is to the means and the extent.
Right.
You haven't, the township has not identified that. Despite what your former solicitor said, you have not identified that to either the residents or to whoever you negotiate or approve to be your fire service. And we're not talking about just the fire. We're talking about
To that.
EMS as well.
I would say, we have no idea 30 or 40 years ago what resolutions may or may not.
Well, I mean, in fact, I mean,
Yeah.
This was a resolution that was when you implemented the fire tax. This was just a few years ago.
right.
We're not talking 30, 40 years ago. We're talking a few years ago that said you're going to implement the fire tax at 1 mil, and you identified Dunnstown Fire Company as the duly recognized, I don't have it in front of me, but the duly recognized or authorized service provider. But it
You're saying
didn't.
we need to identify to the extent of what the services will be.
Well, yeah, because the second-class township code clearly states that.
Right.
To the means and the extent as determined by the township. What is that determination? I've asked for it. I've got nothing back.
I think, let Paul research it and go from there.
How much of our area is covered by fire hydrants?
What's that?
Why do we need to pump those for our area? I don't know how many fire hydrants are in our area. There's one in my backyard.
Yeah, I mean, they can answer that, probably with the way the water system works with those trucks and stuff.
So, the fire hydrants in Woodward Township and going up to Ferensville Road, the last one is on Water Valley Road. Going out County Sport Pike, the last one is at Woodward Meadows. From there on out, German Road, all that out in there is all non-hydrant protected areas. That's why we need the 2 tankers for water. Of course, there's other fire companies coming with water. If my calculations, I'm pretty sure when we put the markers on, we're sitting on 38 of them, 40 something. Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark, which is basically anything from the Constitution Bridge expanding out down to Gardlock Drive, Fargers Highland area, up and around, including up behind like the Dunnstown Diner, that area is all hydrant protected. Now, are they good hydrants? No.
You can hit one.
Can you get water out of them and put a house fire out? Yes. If it's something big like Smith Furniture Burn, probably not. But they are good. I mean, the house that burned here at the end of Drive, believe it or not, we had a hydrant out here along 664 tagged and one at the armory, and believe it or not, we wasn't fighting over who was gonna get more water. We had plenty of water to put that house out. So,
I have one last question. So, I'm not a politician, I don't know all this stuff. I come to once in a while meetings because I hear about them. Would we be having this discussion if you guys didn't take the sewer authority and put it back over? Or would we not be able to have this discussion if the sewer authority was not known as townships or whatever was named for the
This discussion was gonna come at one time or the other, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I think it's actually backwards. It's like the reverse of what you said. I think it's more like that. Say it again how you said it there about the sewer authority. How did you
The way it
phrase it?
was originally was the sewer authority was the sewer authority.
Yeah.
That's where it checks out to. That's all I know.
Right,
Okay? And then it changed, right, checks out to Woodward sewer.
right.
Okay. And then it comes to a meeting and you guys said, we're changing it back to the authority so we can borrow money. Well, here we are borrowing money.
Right.
That's because we did that?
Well,
No, this could, no matter which way it was, this conversation tonight,
What's
the
that?
way they did it, could be here.
Okay. That's all I want to know.
yeah, I mean, most people know the history now, how it all went down last year.
Yeah.
This is about the time last year we were starting conversations about the fire truck with them, and we thought everything was going to be okay. Then went to check to borrow money and couldn't because of the sewer authority
So that's
being
what changed.
dissolved and brought over to the township. So the sewer authority had a bond that is owed on it. And when we shut the sewer authority down and brought that to the township, now the township is responsible for
We
that.
incurred that debt.
So now,
So it's a small community and people talk,
when I came to that meeting, I asked the question, are we doing this so we can buy a new fire truck? And I was told, no.
Right. Well, you did do it to buy a new fire truck. Even if they would have kept it, the thing, no matter if there was no fire truck involved, take the fire company out of it, they had no borrowing power to borrow any money.
Even the truck these guys are gonna need.
If they needed a new truck, a new backhoe, they had not the borrowing power to buy anything. It's not where a township or
But they had the
municipality
funds,
should
they had
be.
the funds.
They had the
to buy-
funds.
And all,
No.
all due respect. but
Hold
all
on,
due
take out the
respect-
funds.
All due respect, you're a fire expert. You're not a politician either.
Right, but what I'm
We're
saying
requesting
is,
to borrow.
they had no borrowing power. It's
Hey.
like having a business,
Right,
you
we're
can't
gonna
go and get any
Yeah, you're not
funds.
borrowing, we're paying.
Right.
So will you buy me a Tesla? I really want a Tesla. Will someone co-sign that for me?
That is correct. We did not have the ability to borrow money. However, we don't need to be borrowing money to buy a truck or whatever out here. I mean, that,
You would
I will
pile
say
if you
that.
didn't have the funds.
They have the funds.
we
have
have
the funds.
That's what I'm saying.
If you didn't have the funds,
And
would
that's
you
why-
have to borrow money?
And then my exact quote last year was, I don't feel we need to borrow money because of the amount of money that we're sitting on.
Yes, I know that.
The second,
So I can free me.
That's the bottom line. However, the way they're proposing this now is
How about
not
we
gonna
do
apply
this?
on-
How about we lower our how about we lower the property taxes? Lower them son of bitches right down. How's that gonna be? You won't have no funds then, will you?
What does that have to do with?
I don't know why
Because
that's-
everything in this fucking place comes out to be nothing but about the fire department, and I'm sick of it. You guys are
You know we have
a bunch of blooming
We have
idiots.
respect for you guys.
No, yeah,
My
I can
son's
see
going to the
it.
fireplace.
No, the
So-
second, you guys support the second reason.
That's what you're paying.
That's what you're paying
As he
for.
just belittles the public, the township is paying the department for a member of the department to belittle.
Well,
That's actually a
Belittling
lot to
your
do with the
company
same
right
person.
here is part of
And I'll have
And when
a
you wanna
conversation
slander me on
about that.
Facebook, spell my name right.
hey,
I haven't been on Facebook and slandered.
let's get back on,
You show me where I slandered you on
let's get back
Facebook.
online here. The
'Cause I don't get into that stupid ass games you play.
Okay, so
So-
now there's a major problem with the sewer, like under that river, or down one of these streams.
I remember that, yes.
We can't borrow when it was under us.
Right,
Okay, we could not borrow to fix that.
yes.
It's under an authority. They're under complete different rules and regulations. They could go borrow. We couldn't. So there's no environmental impact insurance. Anything happens, it fell back on this township. We couldn't borrow. We couldn't fix it. It put us in a position that you don't want to be in a personal position, a business position,
So
or a
basically,
municipal.
you made a mistake when you took the authority away.
What's that?
You made a mistake when you.
Correct.
No, we didn't really. If you asked Eric
I
back
mean, you're
here.
never wrong.
No,
You're never wrong.
no, I'm not saying that. There was problems with that authority, wasn't there?
Yes.
And to get rid of an authority, you just, to correct it, we actually basically had to get rid of it. And Eric and Brenda's back on. We're trying to get it back up and running.
Nobody was aware of
Of the
that
major
financial
problems.
situation when shutting it down. That topic was never brought up, addressed. None of that was ever discussed
Say that
about.
again, what do you mean?
Whenever we shut the sewer authority down,
The first time.
correct, nobody was aware of the borrowing situation.
We
So
were,
there was nobody was aware of it.
So you learned, when you
Correct.
did it, which means you made a mistake. Doesn't mean you made a
No.
mistake once.
yeah, we did
Please.
make a mistake.
Thank
If you
you.
look at it, if you look at it from the point that we did get rid of it, then how were we gonna correct it?
Right.
How were we gonna correct it? Because, the board wasn't working together, were they? There was not one thing being fixed. The infiltration and stuff that needed fixed wasn't being done. Nothing was being
So it's
done.
all being done now?
It's all in the process.
Why is that not brought up in these meetings? Or is that-
We had a sewer
Well,
meeting.
it's-
Sewer meeting.
So that's a sewer meeting.
Sewer meetings.
I'm learning too.
Yeah,
I make
no,
mistakes every day.
I mean, we're working on trying to get funding. There's probably what? Close to $375,000 worth of work that needs done on that right now that we're trying to come up with the money.
The biggest benefit to us, which I'll say again, I was against redoing the sewer authority because of the way it was being laid out last year. However, they put out this ARPA money, this grant money, and it is a huge benefit to us having the sewer authority right now that we were able to apply for grant money for the county for the sewer. So that's one benefit going forward, that we separate and we're gonna be able to, I mean, there's no guarantees that we're gonna get that money, but we were able to apply for money that we wouldn't have been able to apply for under the old, under the system.
So you agree with that being changed back now? Because you were against it before.
I was against it because I felt that it was being separated to make
I
room
felt
to
that
buy
it
a
was being
fire
set
truck.
up to do buy a fire truck.
Correct. That's why I voted against it. That's 100% why I voted against
So
it.
now you think it's okay?
To put the sewer back in,
No, to have the sewer the way it is right now.
I voted against it.
I know, but you're saying now that you're seeing things that are better because it's better.
I'm saying there's a benefit here. I'm listing a benefit as to why we went back to the sewer authority. Here's a benefit to it.
Okay.
So I didn't agree with it. I voted against it because, I mean, pretty evident we had some disagreements about what was taking place. And I'll be 100% honest with you. If Dunnstown Fire Company would have did this last year, I still think we wouldn't have a sewer authority. In my opinion.
Right.
So I think if they would have went and found out that they could have borrowed the money first, not got us involved with borrowing money, well, number one, we would never have found out about it anyways.
Right.
Then we couldn't borrow money. So if they would have went and tried to get the money on their own and have us furnish a letter that says we're going to pay for the fire truck out of our fire tax fund, which I'm okay with. We laid out, I don't know how many meetings and allowed people to come in and tear us apart about the fire tax.
Oh, problem, fire tax, price is high.
And,
I just had a problem with things being done in order for other things to get done
right,
behind closed doors. Again, I don't come to every meeting. I've probably seen you guys 3 times last year,
right.
but every time was for something like this.
Well, the only thing I can say is the structure that they're doing it under, it's not gonna, hoping that that's the case, once Tom checks in everything, that it does not fly apart
I agree with
bar.
that as well. I just don't.
Because once again, that defeats the whole purpose. And that's why I was against the sewer authority being recreated to allow room to
For this to happen.
borrow money in.
And to clarify that,
However, but that's not what they're.
we don't want to type there about borrowing power either. That's not what we want.
Well, this will have borrowing power. It's called debt to income ratio.
Right, but we're not, and Tom's gonna verify that the idea that we're gonna furnish a letter to pay for the tax, or use the fire tax fund to make the payment on the truck will not basically
Incurred debt.
tie our hands.
I mean, that's a gist of it, that's what I'm looking into, and I don't have.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I can't tell you what it says until I read it, so.
I'm not asking you to.
Any more questions?
To clarify on him, on his saying last year, we put it under the township's name because the residents that came and complained did not want the fire company to have possession because it was their tax money that was for that fire truck. They wanted the township to own it, so that if anything happened, if the township had control of it. Is that not right, Mr. Jacobs?
Yes, sir.
They wanted
I
our,
don't care who.
the residents wanted
Well,
our
I'm just saying,
name.
that's where this whole sewer thing started,
Yeah,
because
I don't care
we
who owns
did
the
what the
physical
township
vehicle,
residents
protecting the
asked.
community.
The township residents asked that to happen, so we were okay with it to go that way.
I care
We did
about,
not stop.
That conversation was had, I do remember that. I will.
And that's
They
when
felt that
everything-
they felt the township's name should be on the title and have ownership of that truck in the event of a.
And that's why it
Yes.
went that way, for them to borrow money, because they wanted the name on it and everything.
But we're still gonna have to see about that, like that scenario, which I don't think is likely, but in the event that something would
And
happen.
there's no problem with that, we didn't have a problem before, so.
So just real quick, did I hear Jesus?
No, I didn't say anything about Jesus.
Okay.
I said, oh geez. I thought that's what
So with this letter of commitment, whatever it is, cosign a loan, is the township willing or going to put a clause in there, like a severability clause, so if you decide to cut ties with Dunnstown for whatever reason, that how the continuation of that loan payment will go on, because if you co-sign it, am I correct, you would still be on the hook for that?
But I
That
don't
won't.
know that this letter of commitment's gonna necessarily be a co-signing.
Okay.
As you say, because I think that would require a signing on a note on behalf of the township, and that's, I think what everyone wants to avoid is to incur that debt, so I don't think
Okay.
that's what they're asking for.
Okay,
Just that there are fire tax funds that are raised on a yearly basis that are sufficient to pay for the debt service. Not necessarily, hey, we're incurring this debt on behalf of the township, but that's why I want to check into exactly what the requirements are from the lender to find out what the extent the township will be tied into this.
'cause I guess the concern would be is that if you did decide to cut ties, the bank, the lender, would probably want that vehicle back, and then that would impact your service capability. So I don't know if that's something that you would need to entertain within that, or,
I would think certainly if for whatever reason, we were cut ties with Dunnstown Fire Company, which, obviously is not anywhere on the horizon,
Right,
but
right.
if that were to happen, and, obviously they have the vehicle still in possession, that would be something that would probably be based on the financing agreement as far as whether or not that obligation would still fall on the township. Obviously, that's something we don't want to do, so I'm going to ensure that whatever documentation signed by the township, it doesn't incur liability on
Right.
behalf of the township on an ongoing basis if the fire truck's not in use for our benefit.
yeah, okay.
Anything else? Zoning report.
One zoning permit was issued, 2 excavation permits, 0 boarding permits, totaling 294 dollars.
I have a motion to adjourn. Roll call, John? Howard? Myself, aye.